on behalf of the 5-time world champion Dallas Cowboys.
It's my team. It's my quarterback.
Zeke who?
Got in trouble. Everybody got set. Sean Lee. It was basically the division on the line. 14-yard line. I formation. Elliott off the field. Prescott wide open. Touchdown. Blazell Sharwood.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Welcome back to another episode of the Cowboy Zone. I'm your host, Marcus Jones. As you can see, I'm rolling solo today. My co-host, Lambo, has some other things to take care of, but I am here, and I'm going to talk all things NFL draft. No, thank you, Lamar. Actually, whenever I go live by myself, I use my own personal intro. So whenever I go live, that's kind of how I come in. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Mendoza, what's up, man? Thank you for joining us. Beard Gang in the building. Brian, appreciate you tuning in. I believe this is Nick's with the nice new profile pic, man. Appreciate you tuning in. Jack Meeker, thank you as well. Appreciate you coming in. Mark Cantor. Looks like everybody's coming in pretty quick. So it looks like you guys are ready to talk some NFL draft. Excuse me, I'm kind of running behind, so I'm trying to snack a little bit in between talking about all the stuff that we have to cover as we talk about what happened this past weekend. So, like I said before, Shane Odom, thank you for joining. Taiwan, as always, man, appreciate you tuning in. So, like I was saying before, my guy Lambo couldn't make it today, so I'm rolling solo, but got a lot of information to talk about, a lot of news, a lot of notes going through this NFL draft. Post-draft, I took the opportunity to watch a couple of games of all the players. A couple of them I weren't really familiar with. Some of them I've seen quite a bit. So I just wanted to go back and fine-tune some things, let you guys know what I think about a few of these players, and kind of get you guys information, because what fuels the Cowboy Zone is you guys' input. So make sure you keep bringing those comments in. And before we get started, make sure that you like on YouTube and on Facebook. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell, and then also make sure you share this. Share it to your personal page, and also share it to your favorite Dallas Cowboys page. So I got to grab something real quick, guys. I'll be back in about 10 seconds. That's one of the bad things about rolling solo. When you gotta grab something, you gotta leave the screen blank. All right, guys. So let's get into it. And Eric Berger, thank you for joining. I think you're gonna be a little bit surprised about what I think about this kid. After getting a few nights to sleep on it, really dig into his tape. There's some good there. There's obviously a lot of bad, but there is some good there. So let's go ahead and get to it. We got 11 picks to go through. So let's start off at the top, and we'll go to round one. First player drafted, linebacker Micah Parsons. Now, one of the things I love about Micah Parsons, and if you guys follow the show, Lambo and I were pretty much saying this was our number one defensive player the entire time. By the end of the draft season, we kind of saw the writing on the wall, and we knew that if Patrick Surtain would have been there, just from a marketing standpoint, Jerry Jones probably would have taken him. But Micah Parsons was the entire time our number one defensive rated player. And what makes Micah Parsons so special is the fact, and Jack Meeker hit it on the head, his ability to blitz like a beast. Now, a lot of people like to point to the fact that he played defensive end and running back in college, and they think the transition to linebacker is going to be difficult. But most players in college played different positions. Just because he played defensive end, he's a good pass rusher, That doesn't mean he does not have the entire skill set of a linebacker. Now, we talk about the good. We talk about his ability to blitz. We also have to talk about his ability to read running lanes and get tackles in the backfield. Because if you go back and watch the tape, he lived in the backfield as a linebacker making tackles on players. And for you guys, I know you watched the team religiously. You know our number one problem was our linebackers did not know how to read running lanes. I mean, we saw videos nonstop of Jalen spinning out of the right hole and going into the wrong one, or LVE jumping into a clogged pile and leaving a gap on the outside and the running back just take advantage of it. Micah Parsons, just off his instincts, won't do stuff like that. He knows how to fill a hole. He also has the athleticism to beat centers and guards to the point, which is something we definitely can't say about a guy like Jalen, which when they talked about moving him to Sam linebacker a couple of months ago, I kind of knew that we were going to get a linebacker like this. And we're just fortunate that we got the best linebacker in the draft in Micah Parsons when it comes to stopping the run. So, guys, let me know what you think about Micah Parsons, our first pick. Brian asked the question, who was my favorite pick and who was my least favorite pick? Well, my favorite pick is probably Micah Parsons because a lot of people, like I said, didn't have him that high. I always thought our two biggest problems were stopping the run and generating pressure and getting sacks. Micah Parsons immediately helped solve both those problems. There wasn't a defensive lineman in this draft who could solve both of those problems. So when you go to the next level of the defense, which is linebackers, Micah Parsons was the number one guy to solve both of those issues in terms of rushing the passer and generating great run defense. So just think about this. If Micah Parsons comes in and as a rookie, he gets you 80 tackles and 5 sacks, that's a borderline Pro Bowler. That's probably defensive player of the year for a rookie. And that's the kind of season I'm expecting from Micah Parsons. He does have limitations when it comes to pass coverage. It's not so much that he can't do it. It's the fact that he wasn't asked to do it. And one of those things we have to remember as fans, especially when you're watching college football. The NFL is a 24/7 job. College football is sanctioned that these guys can only do so much on the field. So when you have a great player like a Micah Parsons and you know he does this well and at an elite level, coaches aren't going to push him to learn to do something else because they only have so much time with him on the field. So if he's a great player moving forward in terms of pass rush and stopping the run, the coaches don't have enough time to teach him how to really cover. They can only focus on what they need to get the job done on a week-to-week basis. So I feel like he seems like he's a smart kid. He seems like a hard worker. I'm hoping that he takes this time to work on his craft and develop the ability to get to diagnose passes and things like that because he has the speed and he has the agility. I think I may still have it. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the Cowboys Zone. When you compare Michael Parsons to J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain, and you look at those 40 times, I mean, he's right there with the top 2 corners in the draft. Broad jump, he's right there. Vertical, a little bit lower, but you got to remember, he's probably 40 pounds bigger than them. And another stat that I didn't add because the corners didn't do it is the 3-cone. And in my opinion, the 3-cone is the most important measurable for a linebacker. And his 3-cone was in the 6s. And just for reference, an average linebacker's 3-cone is usually like 7'1", 7'2". His was like 6'8", 6'9", which is ridiculous. And the 3-cone tells the ability of a player to kind of move in the trash and start and stop and pick up speed in tight spaces. That is exactly what you want from your linebackers, and he's one of the best at it. All right, let me go back to the questions real quick. Dallas Pepper Sr. looks like a new name, so thank you for joining us. And let me go to the second round pick, and then I will come to your question about who I think will be in the starting secondary. Jack Meeker asked the question, how much difference is the base salary from 10 to 12? I don't know off the top of my head. I know that all the salaries are kind of they're kind of staggered and they're all pretty much set. And I think the top 10 is where the pay drops to the next level. So I think the number one player gets X amount, and then there's a step down from 1 to 2. Then 2 to 5 gets X amount. Then there's another step down from 6 to 10. And then there's another step down. So we definitely save some money with going down from 10 to 12. And that's a great point I didn't think about, Jack Meeker. You know how much Stephen Jones talks about the cap and saving money. This move could have been just as much predicated on getting their guy than it was on the money that it would save. I think this is my guy, Jeff, sneaking in on YouTube. So if it is, what's up, Jeff? Thank you for joining. And Mendoza brings up a great point. He's never gotten the time to sit and learn the position, just like I said. He's always been moved. Again, when you're an elite level player at high school and in college, there's only so much that coaches can teach you because of the different rules that are in place. So when they have a guy like this, they just have to play him and play to his strengths. They never got a chance to teach him on how to build on his weaknesses. Now he gets that opportunity. And there was some talk that Sean Lee kind of reached out to him and said, hey, let me mentor you, kid. So that's going to be great for his career because there's no better teacher in the NFL than Sean Lee at the linebacker position. Shane Odom talks about you were pleased with the Cox pick after the third round. Going back to Lambo when he almost broke his TV watching the draft. You're definitely right. That was a great pick for us, and that kind of helped ease the shock of what we went through on day 2. Coolly cool. Appreciate you joining us, man. Thank you for tuning in. Long time coming. Glad to see you in here. Make sure you keep bringing those great comments like you always do because I know you're a very knowledgeable fan. P. Stu from overseas, thank you for tuning in. I think it's 1 a.m. where you are, so appreciate you tuning in from across the pond. And let's see. Jack Meeker says he has an amazing relationship with LeVar Arrington, another very smart linebacker that he can lean on for experience. So that's always a good thing. And then P. Stu says with Parsons and Cox, knowing it's going to be a 3-4 plus LV and Jalen, the curiosity got me going. I was thinking about this as well. And as we get later on into the show, I'm definitely going to hit on some notes about the defense and what I think they're going to do and what direction I think we're going to head in. And my mistake, it is 2 a.m. So thank you for tuning in before you go to sleep. Let me see if I missed any other comments before I go to the second pick. And we're at 15 minutes. We just hit pick 1. So we got a lot of show ahead of us, it looks like. So, guys, make sure you keep bringing those comments. If you just joined us, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this video because your support is what fuels the Cowboys on. And make sure you share this as well because we're going to talk about a lot of great stuff with these players that a lot of fans don't know. And this is a great opportunity for me to answer their questions and for you guys to answer their questions as well because you guys are some of the most knowledgeable fans on social media right now. And you guys' comments are just as important as mine. So make sure you keep those great comments coming. All right, guys. So let's go to our second pick, which was Kelvin Joseph, cornerback out of Kentucky. Another great pick. And Monster Longhorn looks like a new name joining us from Twitter. So thank you for joining. Make sure you like. If you get a chance, go on over to YouTube, find me, Bluff City Cowboys. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel as well as my co-host Lambo, which is Cowboys Y'all. So, pick number 2, Kelvin Joseph, Boss Man Fat. Another great pick. And I've been talking about this since October. The reason I love Micah Parsons as the first pick, which I said in October, is because the cornerback room is so deep in this draft that we would be able to get a top 5 to 10 corner in the second round. If we did the reverse, I didn't think that would be possible. But lo and behold, we got my number 4 rated cornerback, Kelvin Joseph, Boss Man Fat. Now, this is something I love about him. Aggressiveness. Now, people talk about the whole dog thing. I like that too, but I like it in another way. I don't like I love a guy who's going to talk and get in the guy's face, but I also like a guy who's going to hold himself and his teammates accountable. That's something we haven't had in Dallas. So when I say dog, I mean a guy that if he makes a mistake, you're going to visually see him get on himself without somebody else getting on him. If his teammate makes a mistake, this is the type of guy that'll go in his teammate's face and tell him, hey, dude, you effing up over there. Let's get it right. Something we haven't had on this team in quite a while. So I like guys like this. He may slap a ref. He may put out a diss tape about one of our upcoming opponents. Those are some things you got to worry about with him. But when it comes to on the field, there are very few players that are better than Kelvin Joseph. Now, when you look at his game, he is a great cover 3 bump and release corner, which is what I think they were trying to do when they went through this draft. And people kind of look over this. Kelvin Joseph is only 5'11", 5'11 and a half. So you look at the whole misnomer about Dan Quinn only wants tall corners. This kind of throws it out of the window to an extent. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes on what I think the secondary position is going to look like, going back to the question that someone asked earlier in the comments. Don't worry, I did forget your question, Dallas Peppers. I'm going to come back to that once we get past the next 3 picks. So, Kelvin Joseph, aggressive player, talented player, gonna bring a little bit more fight to the secondary. I think he's pretty much a plug and play number 2 corner. Just the talent level is there. I don't see Lewis or Brown being better than him as outside corners. And I think just the eye test in practice is going to show you that this cat is just different. P. Stu, now Richard Sherman's like 6'2", 6'3". So, yeah, not the same type of corner. And thank you, J Tuck. Appreciate you tuning in for a few minutes. He's not 6'1", so we can throw the misnomers out the window. Dan Quinn isn't only looking for basketball players. He's looking at talent as well. And like I said, I'm about to talk about this in a few minutes. And like Jeff said, he just brings an attitude. Jordan Lewis, yeah. I think it's Jordan Lewis in a little bit of a different way. Jordan Lewis is more of a aggressive guy with he's just an angry person, honestly. Jordan Lewis is kind of like Orlando Scandrick used to be. He just don't like anybody. And I think that kind of rubs people the wrong way. But definitely, I think Kelvin Joseph is more of like a team guy. He's going to get in guys' faces. I think he's going to come in and kind of be a leader because Trayvon Diggs doesn't really just have that step up and be a leader type personality, which is not a bad thing. I think Kelvin Joseph is going to be that guy that comes in and becomes that leader. Monster Longhorn says Lewis Brown needs to be moved to slot. I I agree with that to an extent. I still think Lewis is better outside, despite the 5'10" height. I just think he needs to be given an opportunity. People look at 5'10" and say, "Oh, he's a slot guy." Go back and watch him in Michigan. That's all I'm gonna say. He played exclusively on the island, bump and release, and nobody caught the ball on him. In 2 years, he only gave up, I think, 100 yards, maybe once, and that was against like some 6'6" receiver. And then that's when everybody kind of called him out on it. But other than that, no matter who it was, he shut him down for 2 straight years. So I think Lewis just needs to get that opportunity. Dominique, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you. I know you're gonna bring some good comments to us. So yeah, definitely. Jeff says, any thoughts on Joseph playing free? Honestly, I don't see it. Again, I think just kind of looking at how Quinn operates and kind of look at the moves he's making, I think he has a plan. And I think he has a certain type that he likes at certain positions. Um, I was having this conversation with a friend right after the draft, just comparing what we did in free agency compared to what Dan Quinn did in Atlanta compared to what we did in this draft. And there are a lot of similarities. So, like, when I look at a guy like Kelvin Joseph, and I promise you, as soon as I get on air, I get terrible with names. The cornerback who played for Atlanta, who was their number one corner forever, and then he eventually went to, I believe, Minnesota. That's who Kelvin Joseph reminds me of. And I feel like he's going to be kind of that outside guy. All right, guys. So let's go to the third round real quick. And we'll go to the first pick of when the draft started to kind of take a turn for most of us just looking at it live on television. Thank you, Jeff. Desmond Trufant. That is a great comparison to Kelvin Joseph to me. If you guys don't remember who Desmond Trufant is, go check out one game and watch him play and tell me if you don't see Kelvin Joseph in how he plays. So I feel like that's the type of guy Dan Quinn liked, and Kelvin Joseph kind of stood out to me on that one. So let's go to the third round where the draft again started to kind of take a turn, and we go to our first pick, and that is Osa Odigizua, defensive tackle from UCLA. Now, initially when I saw this pick, I didn't like it. Let me say this. I love the player. I love the player pre-draft, and I just didn't feel like he fit what we were trying to do because of his size. But apparently, Dan Quinn, when he talked about the 3-4, he kind of brought out some things that shows this guy can be a fit. And just like Jack Meeker said, two things that stand out about him are power and leverage. Whenever you watch him play, he knows how to use his body to get where he needs to go. Again, he played nose tackle in a 3-4 scheme in college at 280. And he was strong arming dudes. Like, he was busting through double teams. He was driving guys into the quarterback. He did everything he wanted to do. Now, this is the thing I love about him. And Jaquez, thank you for tuning in. I know you're going to bring some great comments, so make sure you keep them coming. Agree or disagree, I'm all about getting out great content. So make sure you keep letting us know what you think. Now, initially when I saw it again, I didn't like it because I felt like he may be too small. But then on second look, I think he's a good fit. And like I said, once I get past the third round, I'm going to go into a little bit more about what I think this scheme is going to look like and let you guys know why I think he's going to be a good pick. And like you said, he's a one tech and a 3-tech body, perfect for a one gap 3-4. That's a great point. I actually think we're going to run more 3-4 under concepts, and you could put this guy at your 5-tech and let him play one gap. I think he's going to be a beast right there, honestly. And then we go to 4-3. You can play him at base defensive end because we all know D-Law only plays 60% of the snaps. So this kid can be one of the guys that helps take up that other 40%. or you can slide him inside at the 3 tech, or you can slide him down at the nose in a 4-3 on obvious passing downs. And the thing I love about him, he penetrates. He has long arms. He knows how to drive guys back. And I talked about this on Stargang right after the draft when I talked about the comparisons between Atlanta, Dallas free agency, and Dallas draft. This Osa kid reminds me of Carlos Watkins, the guy we just signed in free agency from Houston. Now, you can go pull up the Houston tape and you can see him getting his butt whooped. Go back and watch him at Clemson. He played defensive tackle at 290 pounds and he had 8.5 sacks on a loaded Clemson team. He also has the 34-inch arms. He's also known for being a pass rusher. And then you go back to Atlanta and you look at Grady Jarrett, another guy, 5'10", 5'11", barely 300 pounds, but he has those 34-inch arms and he knows how to generate. So Dan Quinn has a type of guy that he's looking for, and Osa is a perfect fit for that. As much as we want them to get the big fat sloppy D tackles, which we got one later in the draft, this is the type of guy that he really likes. And again, we talk about length. Length is a big deal at every position for Dan Quinn, it looks like. And one thing I have to commend him for, we had a problem last year. He saw the problem and he addressed the problem. Everything we did comes down to arm length, separation, and tackling. All the guys he got do that. And Jack Mika talks about Basham. How does he fit with this new D alignment? Now, Basham, I talked about this before. Randy Gregory is not a 3-down defensive end. As much as we love Randy Gregory and we love the story and we like the pass rush, he's not going to give you much on first and second down. So I think a guy like Basham or the next guy we're going to talk about, Chauncey Golston, one of those guys is going to be our early down defensive end on the right side, in my opinion. And then you just bring Randy Gregory in and let him be a designated pass rusher. So that's kind of where I think Basham fits in at. When we go to that 3-4 scheme, I can see him being in that Sam linebacker position, kind of similar to where I think they're going to play Jalen at, where he just sets the edge and does his containment. And then in that 4-3, he's going to be our right defensive end on early rundowns. So there is a role for Basham as well as Golston. So let's go back to the comments again real quick. Dan Quinn is a D-line whisperer. Look what he did with Grady. Exactly. When I looked at Osa, when I slept on it after day 2 of the draft, and I really paid attention to him, I was like, this is Grady Jarrett. This is his Grady Jarrett guy. Undersized guy, can play the nose, can play the 3, gonna generate pressure. Same thing for Carlos Watkins. I made a post right after they signed Carlos Watkins. And you guys can go and find this on Twitter and Facebook. And I said, one of our D tackles is going to be out of a job because they signed this guy. And a couple of people laughed on it. And some people I really respect in the podcast game. I'm not going to put names out there. Antoine Wood's move doesn't surprise me because of guys like this and because Dan Quinn has a thing. And just like I just said as well, Dan Quinn has a profile. And he's going to stick to their profile. Now, that could be good or bad. We'll find out when the season starts. But one thing I have to give it to him for, he's not afraid to make moves that fit what he wants to do. He's not going to do like Mike Nolan and keep everybody and then sign a couple of guys and then just try to put some crap together and make it fit. Dan Quinn knows what he wants, and he's going to get the guys in here that can do it. And Todd Robinson, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate the support. Now, again, in a few minutes, I'm going to show you the 3-4 that I think we're going to run. We don't need him to really take up blocks. We need him to penetrate because when he penetrates, he's going to open up rushing lanes where a linebacker like Micah Parsons can take advantage of it and get guys on the ground. One thing we noticed last year, and everybody loved Dontari Poe when we signed him, including myself. I fell victim to this as well. We got the big, fat, sloppy nose tackle. He's going to take up 2 or 3 blocks. It's going to be a beautiful day. The problem is it was stalemates or him getting pushed back. So when you got a guy that big and he's not active, he's clogging lanes, but he's also preventing the linebackers from stepping up and doing their job. And that caused our linebackers to have to read other gaps instead of just hitting their gaps. And obviously our linebackers were not good at reading rushing lanes. So you bring in guys that can penetrate, that's going to open up lanes for not only the running back to try to hit, but our linebackers to get back there and get those guys on the field. And like he says, Basham is insurance. I think there's going to be a role for him. Again, Gregory's not going to give it to you on first down. You got to just bring him in and let him do what he does best. So a guy like Basham is going to be great in their role. Same thing for Golston. Mendoza talks about Basham getting first crack. Now, I talk about this with Noah Brown, and I've been getting killed about it for the past week. The same thing for Dorrance Armstrong. Armstrong plays every special teams position. So no matter how much we hate him and how much we think he's taking a spot, when you have a guy that plays every special teams and does it well, teams are not going to give up on that. They'll give up on potential before they give up on a guy who can be a special teams ace. Dominique, great breakdown of him. Relentless motor, very quick and long, not an anchor. I don't think we need an anchor. I think we need a guy who can create rushing lanes. That's why you go get a Micah Parsons. And Jaquez breaking them down with the technical terms. The Joker positioning the 3-4, Leo in the 4-3 under. Exactly. Thank you for pointing that out. Jeff comes in and says Hill might be on a short leash. He could be. When I look at that 3-4 under scheme, I think there's a role for Hill. I can see him playing more of that nose position because that's what he did so well at Central Florida when he was in college that we haven't seen him do in the NFL so far. So yeah, he says they all do a great job of not getting moved. Yeah, that's a good point. But Osa is great at generating pressure. I don't want to get into a lot of tape and stuff because we got a lot of guys to go through and we're already 30 minutes in and I'm only at pick 3. So let's keep it moving, get to these next guys. Thank you guys for the great comments so far. Let's keep them coming. I missed your comment, Dominique, talking about the 34 arm length. Like, that's ridiculous when this guy is 6 feet tall and his wingspan is 7 feet. This the type of dude that can scratch his calf muscle without bending over. That's what you look for when you get a defensive lineman. And then at that size to have hands that are 10 inches, those are like left tackle hands. Those are huge hands. Perfect 5 tech, nice 3 tech, 1 tech in a pinch. Great analysis. And Jeff says he's anxious to see the starting 4 linebackers in the base 3-4. I am too, and I have a couple of thoughts on that. We'll get to that in a minute. So now we'll go to our second pick in the 3rd round where Justin Hamilton's on a very short leash. Like, he's probably already just waiting for his spot on the practice squad. I think he has 0 chance of making the 55. All right, guys. So let's go further into round 3 where we start scratching our heads a little bit more. And that's when we get to Chauncey Golston, defensive end from the University of Iowa. Now, when we first made this pick, this was a pick that I actually liked. I didn't love it because there were a lot of guys that were still available for us to take. But after I saw the Osa pick and then I thought about free agency, like I said before, Dan Quinn has a thing and he has fits. Chauncey Golston is the Terrell Basham guy. He's the Tack McKinley guy when you go back and look at Atlanta. 6'4", 6'5", 260 some pounds, long arms, and he has that versatility. And he's also pretty good in the run. So when you look at Chauncey Golston, and I watched a couple of games on him, one thing that stands out is he knows how to use his arms to get separation when it comes to running. He's pretty good at stacking and shedding, which is kind of standing up, getting the arms out, and then kind of shedding the offensive tackle away from him and in the run game. Very good at that. When it comes to pass rush, there's a lot to be desired. That's why I say this is going to be one of your first down guys. Another thing that really stood out to me, he could play a little defensive tackle as well. So you put him in the 3 tech when we run 4-3, or you put him in at that 5 tech when we run the 3-4, and he may be able to give you some snaps there. I think they're probably going to try to put about 8 to 10 more pounds on him, get him closer to 280, and that way he can be more of an anchor when we start to run that 3-4. But again, the long arm stand out on tape. The ability to shed blocker stands out on tape, especially when he goes inside. When he goes inside, even at 260, 270, he's a different player than he is on the outside. And I think he can take advantage of that when he goes inside. Now, we got a lot of guys that kind of fit this 280, 290 role. So playing inside may be limited for him. The competition outside is a little bit thinner. So I can see him being more of the first and second down guy on the right defensive end side, or kind of taking over the role that Dorrance Armstrong should have had for the past 2 years as a backup to D-Law. I think there's a spot for him on this team. Now, when we think about third rounders, we normally want the guy to be a day one starter or a major impact guy. I don't think Golston's going to be that. But what Golston is going to give you is some quality number 6, number 7 defensive lineman snaps, which is something we did not have last year. Because you guys can go back and watch the games. D-Law played 50 to 60% of the snaps. When he was off the field, the run game looked completely different. Because the guys who were coming in and replacing him were not nearly at the level D-Law was when it comes to the run game. And Brian talks about Golston will play some 5 tech and a 3-4 to protect D-Law. Definitely. Jack Meeker says, is he our new Tyrone Crawford? I guess Tyrone Crawford would be a pretty good comparison. I'm still trying to think of where I see this guy as. I hate to put this on him, but I see not as strong Michael Bennett going back to comparisons of past guys. I can see him once he puts on about 10 pounds. I can see him being a Michael Bennett type guy. Long arms, standing up D tackles, and standing up centers and guards and tackles and holding his spot and opening up things for the linebackers. That's what Michael Bennett did well. Now, Michael Bennett was a much better pass rusher than this guy is. So that's one of the things Bennett had on him. But I didn't get to see him play inside as much as I wanted to. So when he goes inside, those pass rush moves could come out. On the outside, I didn't really see it as much. So Jack Meeker, great comparison. And Jay Tuck says he doesn't have the great bend, but he can bull rush definitely. He's great inside with that bull rush and using the quickness that he has against much bigger players. And Dominique says he's not quick laterally. He does have that straight line burst. Again, another 34-inch arm guy, 10-inch hand guy. Perfect 5 tech, Sam defensive end. Great breakdown. I agree with all of that. I think he's probably going to start off playing some right defensive end as well on first downs. But definitely, he can play both sides. And I feel like we're going to see him inside quite a bit too in that 3-4. So this may be one of those picks where we don't see much of him year one. Because again, I think they're going to put about 7 to 10 pounds on him, get him closer to the 280 range, and then start to let him work a little bit more on the inside. Shane Odom asked a great question. Do we think the Cowboys are going to bring the heat on defense and blitz more? I definitely see more blitzes, especially with a guy like Michael Parsons because he does that so well. Also with Jalen moving more to an outside linebacker, Sam linebacker role, I think we're going to see him blitzing more because he's more of a north and south player. So that's going to help make him look a lot better. And then you got guys like Keanu Neal, who we used to do a lot of nickel blitzing where we bring the nickel corners. I can see Keanu Neal being more of that blitzer in place of the nickel corners just because of the scheme we're going to run. It's so important that those nickel backs get back and get in their zone. So I think we're going to see more wheel linebacker blitzes than nickelback blitzers. Because if you guys remember, Jordan Lewis probably had 3 sacks last year. Anthony Brown probably had a sack or 2. We brought those nickel blitzes quite a bit. I think we're going to replace that with wheel linebackers this year. And Jabril Cox is a good blitzer as well. Like I said, watch the wheel linebacker position. That's going to be your blitzing guy. All right, guys. So now we go to our last pick of the 3rd round, and this is kind of where the head scratching really goes in. And that was pick 99, how we ended the night with cornerback Nashawn Wright from Oregon State University. Let me take a drink of water on this one. Now, at first glance, I thought it was an awful pick. Only because looking at the cornerbacks as much as I do, and I know we all do, we saw so many corners that we all know and that we all felt were so much better than him in terms of on-field production and measurables. And for me personally, Melifonwu from Syracuse, I thought there's no way they would take this guy over a guy like Melifonwu. And I believe, I don't have the draft right in front of me, but right after he went, I think 2 more corners went. Let me pull it up real quick because I don't remember who went 100 and 101. If you guys can remember real quick, let me know. I'm about to pull it up right now. So we picked this kid at 99, and then the next 3 picks, if you guys watch the Cowboys on, you know I talk about these names all the time. Pick 100 was Elijah Molden, who I thought was a top 50 player. After him was Melifonwu, which I thought probably a 75, 80 player. Very talented. And then after him was my guy from Michigan, because you know I watch a lot of Michigan, Ambry Thomas. Now, if you guys watch me on the Cowboys on, you know I talked about Ambry Thomas all the time. Now, I thought he was a little bit of a reach where he went, but I could definitely see it because of the height, weight, speed, and his playmaking ability. So I look at this, and I remember Eric Berger was online with us as well, and he put up the way up that shows the traits, and he has looked like, I believe, like 6 o'clock, or not 6 o'clock, 4 o'clock. He had a large spike for arm length and a large spike for height. Everything else was like compressed. And what that tells you is he doesn't have a lot of elite athletic traits. All he's known for in the high percentages are height and arm length. Marlo asked the question, do you think we'll try Wright at safety? Honestly, I don't think he'll play safety. I just don't see it. His awareness doesn't look high enough to me to play safety. And also, I don't think he has the weight or the toughness to play safety. Not saying he's not a tough player, because I saw him get chippy quite a bit, but I don't think he has it in him to play safety. I don't think he can read a field like that. Jack Meeker says had not heard of him at all. I had heard of him, but to be honest, I probably had a minimum 20 corners in front of him. Like, he was so far down my corner list, I didn't even see the reason to bring him up, honestly. And Dominique, great point. Feet are too slow. One of the things that stood out on tape and also looking at his pro day, which backed it up, he does have slow feet. His 3-cone was a 7.2, 7.19. Now, I talked about this with Micah Parsons at the beginning of the show. You want your 3 cones for defensive players to be as close to 7 as possible. Ideally, you want them to be below 7 because that tells you that they're able to kind of move in space and change direction quickly. His was a 7.2. That's average linebacker 3-cone speed. So that tells me he's not going to be able to really turn his body and change direction and kind of come downhill the way we need him to. And then Jeff talks about the 6 reps on bench. That showed on tape as well, because whenever he pressed, it looked like he was about to get his chest caved in, like dead serious. I never saw him really jam a guy and changes momentum or even slow him down. It was really just the guy pushing him and getting him out of the way. And Jay Tuck talks about him on Last Chance U, him and his brother, both mouthy players, both kind of chippy. I saw quite a few plays where in the league, those would have probably been personal foul calls on them. So I hope that's something they work out on them as well. Mendoza asked a great question about DeMonte KZ. Does he start off on the pup? And where does Reggie Robinson play? Because, again, we don't know whether he's going to corner or safety. Eric Berger, just what I just said. If you can get in his chest, you can beat him. You can beat him off the ball. It's a TD. He wins 9 times out of 10 at the line, needs strength. I just don't see him at safety. Like, I don't see his ability to change directions. If he's backpedaling, I don't see him being able to go from left to right. You need a guy who can turn his body and can hit it, either going to the left, going to the right, going downhill. I just don't see that in his footwork. I see a guy that you put him as your big nickel corner, which is, I'm going to talk about this in a minute. Big nickel. You let him touch the tight end. Then he backpedals. He gets in his zone, and then he reads the quarterback. Because the thing that stood out to me the most about him, he has very good ball skills, and his awareness in the area he's in is very good. So if you put him in a zone where he can just get to his spot and kind of scan his area, I think he's going to be really good there. But when it comes to press, release, and then turn and run, awful. I do not want to see him do that, even in a cover 3. And Mendoza says he needs to get stronger immediately. Definitely. It was a couple of plays. I think we watched a couple live on the show without knowing anything about him. I just picked a random game. And I think like the first 3 plays, he just got bullied. It was sad. And Dominique talked about how he bites on double moves, and our guy Simi ate him alive. Definitely right. He can be a little bit aggressive at times. He depends a lot on his height, but he doesn't have the athletic ability to catch up on anything. Queen joined us all the way from ATL. What's up? Thank you for tuning in. And Shane asked the question at this point, why did they not trade up? Well, honestly, we don't really trade up a lot, especially early in the draft. Like, I can't even remember the last time we traded up for a guy. Was it 2014 D-Law in the second round? That's about the last time I can remember us trading up in an early round. The Cowboys have always been kind of notorious about letting the draft come to them, at least in the first 2 days. And then once we get to 5th or 6th round, if there's a guy they really like, they may give up next year's 5th to get him because they played a compensatory game so well. Looking at what we did in free agency, the team pretty much knew we weren't getting any compensatory picks next year. Like plain and simple. The talent of guys we lost wasn't that high, and the talent of guys we replaced them with wasn't that high either. So they kind of cancel each other out. So when I looked at this draft and I look at us in the past 4th, 5th, 6th round, we would always trade next year's 5th to move up in this year's 5th to go get a guy. We don't have that compensatory next year. So I feel like because of that, the team just tried to stay pat, not give up any real future picks, and stay where they are. And that's why I think they didn't trade up. J Tuck, I agree. That's definitely not worth a 3rd round grade. But again, I have to give it to Quinn because he has a plan and he's sticking to the plan. Whether we agree with it or not, he's sticking with his plan. So we just have to see if it works out and if he gives us what we think he should be. Just looking at the way this team is composed right now, I don't see how he's any higher than our number 4 corner. So again, just like I talked about with Golston, I don't think we're going to get immediate returns on him. So also I think it's going to be kind of immediate, but our next 2 guys, I feel like we're going to have to wait kind of like we did with Gallimore, week 9, week 10, week 11, and then we'll start to see them get on the field a little bit more. But that's not a bad thing if they can come in and produce. William Coulter, thank you for joining us. Dominique, thank you for going back and fact checking that. I thought the last time we made an early trade up was for D-Law. We did trade up for Tyler B. William, but that was in the 5th round. Like I said, we always use next year's 5th or 6th rounder to trade up in this year's draft. But because we don't have compensatories next year, I think the team was comfortable saying we're just going to stay where we are and not give up draft picks. Again, William, I agree we had a lot of picks to trade up, but they value current year picks a lot. Normally when we trade up, we're trading up using next year's pick because they know we're going to get a compensatory pick for somebody. And Jeff says this, I know you're messing with me. You said they're going to use him as a Chris Westry type project. Well, Chris Westry was here 4 years and he never touched the field, and then he signed with Baltimore. So I hope our 3rd round pick is a little bit more productive than that. Jack Meeker asked a great question. Do we believe that this coach will give the new kids a real chance to play? This is me wishful thinking, but I feel like the fact that he's going out and getting certain guys with certain traits, he's doing that with the thought that I'm gonna see these guys on the field. Like I can't see him getting all these types of guys who all fit a certain criteria, and then we still see Jalen get 100% of the snaps. I don't think that's gonna happen. So I think all these guys are gonna get a real opportunity to show themselves, especially in practice. And unlike last year, it looks like we're gonna have a rookie training camp, a rookie mini camp. And it looks like we're gonna have team mini camps and a real off season. So unlike the guys last year, these guys will get a couple of more chances on the field to show what they can do. So I think that's going to help out a lot as well. Jack Meeker asked the question, what about last year's picks that aren't Quinn guys? That's a great question. I made a tweet a couple of days ago, right before Antoine Woods got cut, and I said, there are going to be a lot of players that the fans are fond of that we're going to be disappointed to see them go. And I feel like the reason for that is because, like I said, Quinn has a type. And we go to the defensive end position, starting off. Randy Gregory, 6'4", long arms. Chauncey Golston, 6'4", long arms. D-Law, 6'4", long arms. Armstrong, 6'4", long arms. Then we go to Bradley Anai, 6'3", short arms. As much as we love Bradley Anai, is he going to be given a real opportunity, or is Quinn going to want to see one of his long arm guys out there? Same thing I said about defensive tackle. And you guys can go back and look. I said this on Star Game post-draft, and I said this on this show post-draft. When you look at the defensive tackle position, every guy we took in free agency, every guy we took in the draft was a tall, angular, long-armed guy. We had three defensive tackles that didn't fit that type of player. That was Hill, Woods, and Gallimore. Now, Gallimore showed enough to earn another year, I think. Hill was hurt last year, and Woods just doesn't fit that role at all. So I felt like either Hill or Woods was going to be gone quickly. I'm shocked it happened this fast, but it's not surprising because Quinn likes what he likes. And I feel like when we look for our 3-4 nose and 5 techs, Brent Urban is going to give you a lot of what you would expect Woods to give you, as well as Osa, even though Osa probably weighs 15 pounds less than Woods at the same height. But the arm difference is almost half a foot. Mark Cantor says, if you mess with Gallimore, I'm going to be pissed. I think Gallimore is safe. If you go back and watch Gallimore at Oklahoma, the scheme that I think we're going to play, he played every position on the line in that scheme. He played 0, he played 1, he played 3, he played 5. He's going to be okay. I think he's going to have a shot here. Same thing for Hill. Looking at Hill, go back and watch him at UCF. The reason he was drafted in the second round is because his junior year, he was a beast in that 3-4 scheme. The reason people didn't know him his senior year is because the team went to a 4-3 scheme and he didn't like it, and he didn't like the coaches, and the coaches didn't play him. And when he did play, he was still a beast, even though it was very limited snaps. So I feel like going to this 3-4 under, where you play him at more of a 5 tech, where he can just 4 tech, 5 tech, where he can penetrate, I think we're going to see a better Hill if he gets the opportunity. J Tuck asked, did Woods clear waivers? I think waivers are 24 hours. I don't think we've hit 24 hours yet. So we'll find out shortly if someone picks him up. Again, we all know you can look for the Raiders because of Marinelli. You can also look for Cincinnati because for some reason they like to get a lot of our defensive linemen as well. You could probably look for a team like Atlanta because they're really short on defensive linemen. One of those teams are probably going to pick up Woods because Woods is a talented player for what he does. He's not a starting caliber NFL player, but for $2 million, he could find a role on a team. And Queen coming with the knowledge as always. Again, the plan is there. Folks just need to do their homework because all these dudes balled out in college. Again, like I just said, Tristan Hill in a 3-4 under scheme, he's a different player. And I hope we get a chance to see that. Neville Gallimore, he was best as a 3 tech in the 4-3 scheme, but in college, he played every position along the line in a 3-4. So you got a guy like that with the versatility. And then she talks about our undrafted free agents. And then he talks about the fullback that we signed, which we haven't had a fullback in forever. So it's definitely going to be interesting with the competition. And we'll talk about receiver once we get into those next picks. And Lamar tuning in saying it's going to be an all-out war for PT on defense. Definitely. I think we're going to see the best 11 guys. That D-line is going to be ridiculous. Like, they better take advantage of every snap they get because it's a guy behind them that's coming and that's ready to take some snaps. And Jack Meeker says Woods didn't have to clear waivers. I think Woods may have under 4 years vested. That's the reason he was an exclusive rights free agent. So if you're an exclusive rights free agent, I would have to go back and check that. But I believe he does not have the right to pick his team. I think he still has to clear waivers. I'm almost certain because he was an exclusive rights free agent and not a restrict. Nope, I take that back. He was a restricted free agent. So I don't know the rules. I believe as a restricted free agent, he may still have to clear waivers because you have to have at least, I believe, 4 years accrued to not have to go on waivers. But if I'm wrong, Jack, please let me know if I'm wrong or not, because I would rather give the right information than just make you guys believe that I'm right about everything, because I'm definitely not. So I said all that to go back to Nashawn Wright. He has the long arms. He has the ball skills. He has the awareness. There's a role for him on this team. And let me just go real quick to kind of show you guys what I've been talking about in terms of a 3-4 under scheme. So this is a 3-4 under front. And you've seen Jaquez and you've seen Dominique and Mendoza kind of reference this in the comments. So this is kind of an idea of what it looks like. So you got your nose tackle, and your nose tackle is kind of playing in your one tech. He's not really playing head up like you would think of in the traditional 3-4 front. He's more of a shade type on either side of the center, usually the side where the tight end is. So if you guys kind of can see, it's center, guard, tackle, tight end. And the 7 tech right here, this is the Sam linebacker. He's going to kind of press the tight end at the line and then play contain. And as you can see right here, this E to 5-6 tech, this is going to be the initial role of a guy like Osa, where you just put him on a tackle and just let him bull rush and cause penetration. Guys like Golston, guys like Osa, guys like possibly Gallimore, the 5-6 tech spot is kind of where you'll see guys like that. And then you look at this middle spot. The middle spot is in charge of the B gap. And the B gap is right between the guard and the tackle. This is where Micah Parsons comes into play at, because I don't think LVE has he doesn't have the fortitude to hold up against a guard, even at that size. So you bring in a guy like Parsons, and I talked about this before. You don't need Osa to hold up. You need him to penetrate, because as he pushes that tackle in, he's going to make that B gap even bigger for that middle linebacker to come in and run that lane and get to the running back or the quarterback. So then you go to the other side of the line and you look at the other end spot, which is your 2 tech, 3 tech. Now, I think Urban will play the 2 or the 2 tech as well, Jaquez. That's why I think all these guys with long arms are going to be valuable to this team, because the job of the guy at the 2-3 tech, he's playing 2 gap. What that means is, unlike the guy at the 5 tech who's a penetrator, the guy who's playing the 2 tech, which I described this before. If you want to know what these gaps mean, you start with the center, and that's 0. The gap between the center and guard, the gap between the guard and the tackle, the gap between the tackle and the tight end. That's 1, 3, 5, 7. When you're playing head up on one of these guys, it's 0, 2, 4, 6. Now, looking at the 2-3 tech, I think it's probably going to be more of a 2 tech where he's head up on that guard, and it's basically going to be stand up, use those long arms, find where the play is going, shed that guard, and go make the play, or hold the guard up so that the joker position can come in and fill an alley or scrape, which means kind of shove the guy out of the way. And that's what Jaquez was talking about, kind of like a Jalen role. I can see Jalen doing that. I can also see him at the 7 tech. But like Jaquez just said, it'll be a rotation. we got a lot of guys who can fit a lot of different spots. And just like he said, Urban will play the 5 tech. I personally think Urban will be a better 2 tech because he's 6'7". He's got the height as well as the long arms. So it'll be a lot easier for him to 2 gap because unlike a guy like Osa, Urban will be able to see over the 6'5", 300-pound guard and see where the play is going. I think Osa will have to rely on penetration first before he can see what's going on in 2 gap. Unlike Urban, who I think as soon as he comes off the line, he'll be able to kind of diagnose and see everything. So we kind of disagree on that, but we don't know which one of us is right, and he can play either spot. So we talk about the 2 tech, which I think it'll be more of a 2 tech. And then you go to the wheel spot. This will be your Randy Gregory. This will be your D-Law. Now, when you look at it, you think, okay, 3-4, D-Law is going to be awful standing up. This is pretty much the same thing he does on the other side, except now he'll be on a 2-point stand instead of a 3. We're not asking him to contain. We're asking him to beat a tackle one-on-one. And I feel like he can do that. And Jaquez, I mean, we really don't know. I could be right. You could be right. Again, he can play both spots. I just personally think he'd be a better 2-gap guy, but he can play the 5 tech just as easily. So we look at the 5 tech. I'm seeing Osa, I'm seeing Chauncey, I'm seeing Urban. If Watkins makes the team, he's perfect here. And when I look at the nose, I'm looking at Gallimore, I'm looking at Hill, I'm looking at Bohanna. Just guys who are big and can generate a little bit of pass rush. That's the perfect spot for them. Now, people hear 3-4, 4-3, and they get terrified, like, oh, we don't have the personnel for that. This is basically the same thing as a 4-3 front with our personnel. The only difference is the guy at the W spot is going to be in a 2-point stance instead of a 3-point stance. But all the concepts are still the same. The Sam linebacker, instead of being more of an outside shade, he may be a little bit more head up on the tight end. But other than that, 3-4, 4-3, the concepts are still the same. So don't let that stuff scare you. And then I put up another chart just to kind of show with actual bodies so you can kind of see what it looks like. So you look at this 9 right here. I think that's more of the Jalen role. And then like Jaquez now talking about the 4-tech. You talk about this guy kind of head up playing him, and then you look at the 1 kind of on the gap on the side where the tight end is, and then they have this 3-4 This could be even this could be 3, this could be 4, this could be 5. It really depends on how you want to play it. Now in this one that I have right here, they have the end in a 9, which is very wide. I don't think we're gonna go 9-tech. That's like 2 spots out. I don't think we have the rushers other than Gregory to do a 9. So I think it'll be more of a 7, which would shift this 3-4 guy more inside and kind of shift everything over to the left a little bit more. But you look at like a number 52. This is Micah Parsons. This is where he comes in and he kind of beats this guard right here. And then I think you will see a guy like a Leighton Vander Esch where number 57 is, or a guy like Jabril Cox where he's a little bit covered up by the 1 and the 3, and he's able to kind of play the field, see where things are going, get out in the coverage. So this is kind of what I talk about when I say 3-4 under, and I think this is the kind of scheme we'll run. Now, let me go to some cover 3 concepts in terms of the secondary. And this is where I think we're going to go in terms of this team, which is probably going to be a little bit unorthodox to what most people think. And guys, if you have any questions or comments about this, please put them in the comments. Some of you guys are way more knowledgeable about this than I am. I'm not afraid to admit that. Jaquez, Dominique, Mendoza, I know you guys talk about this stuff all the time too. So if there's something I need to point out, J Tuck, definitely let me know and I'll put it on the screen because I want to make sure everybody kind of understands what we're saying. And J Tuck says, what would be the benefit of standing Randy Gregory and Law up in a 2-point versus the natural 3? I guess the benefit for one would be just having better vision. And then sometimes just changing the way they rush, it may make them better pass rushers. Because I go all the way back to the Greg Ellis days when we initially changed from a 4-3 to a 3-4. And he was just like, trade me, cut me. I don't want to play on this team anymore. I don't want to be a stand-up 3-4 linebacker. But then you go back and look at the history of it and talk to Greg Ellis, and he says going to a 3-4 helped revitalize my career because I was getting 8 sacks in the 4-3 stance. Now in the 3-4 stance, I'm still getting 8 sacks, but because of the way the scheme is being played and me being able to stand up, it's keeping a lot of wear and tear off my body and allowing me to play a little bit more loose. So that could be one of the advantages if our players are willing to play ball and allow that to happen and just see where it goes. Because I think the 3-4 that Nolan ran last year, if you want to call it a 3-4, I don't know what that was. But whatever you want to call that, it's completely different than the 3-4 under I think we're going to be playing with the guys that we have. So now let me go back to this where we go back to the pass schemes. And again, you get out the ball quicker because you're in more of a track stance than a rush stance. Gregory, I think this is really going to help Gregory a lot. And D-Law, it just remains to be seen. I just go back to Greg Ellis and what he said it did to his career. I see Greg Ellis and D-Law similar players. So hopefully if D-Law gives it a shot and we do the scheme I think we're going to do, I think this will help his career as well. So now we go to the secondary. And this goes back to the question that Peppers asked earlier. And what was that name? It was something Dallas Pepper Sr. Dallas Pepper Sr., I hope you're still here. If you are, let me know in the comments because I'm going to get to that secondary question that you asked me a while back. So this is kind of the cover 3 I think we'll be running. If you look at the guys in the boxes on the outside, and great point. People hear 3-4 and think the linebackers always stand up. That's not always the case. That's just the way the formation looks. A 3-4 under is pretty much a 4-3. They just have they just call it 3-4. You're 100% right. And thank you for putting out and thank you for touching base on that misconception. You can play a 3-4 and D-Law is still considered the same outside linebacker, except now he's standing up. The only thing this defense does is it puts that position a little bit wider than it would in a 4-3, where he's more in a 5 tech, which is right outside the tackle, or a 4 tech where he's right on top of the tackle. It puts him in a 7 tech, which gives him a little bit more space to operate, and he has a little bit more help behind him. So great point, Jaquez. Now, going back to this cover 3 in the secondary, look at the boxes at the bottom and the top. These are your corners playing cover 3. Now, the basic concept of a cover 3 is, for people who don't know, the players cover a third of the field. So the outside corners have an entire third of the field, and then the free safety covers the deep middle. So looking at this sheet, as you can see in the boxes, the corners are playing a press position, which means they're going to come up to the line of scrimmage, they're going to touch up the wide receivers, and then they're going to bail and get back and cover their thirds. Now, we talk about the misconceptions with Dan Quinn only liking tall corners. I think the guys who we have as the shorter corners are going to be playing in these boxes. The guys like a Jordan Lewis, guys like Kelvin Joseph, because they're way better at press and bail than some of the bigger corners we have. If you guys want to get a go laugh, go look at Mukwamu last year in a press position. It looks like you can hear his hips popping when he turns because they're so stiff when he tries to release. Kelvin Joseph has a very smooth release out of a press position. So I think a guy like that is going to excel in this scheme. Also, Jordan Lewis, people see the height. Again, I watch a lot of college football. I watched pretty much every snap Jordan Lewis played in Michigan. He is amazing when it comes to press and release. The problem is we didn't get to see him do it a lot. If you go back to his rookie year, when Byron Jones was still at corner, Jordan Lewis may have been our best corner on the team for about 3 or 4 games until the other guys came back from injury. So we've seen him do it at NFL level. I've definitely seen him do it in college. I think he's going to do it here on this team in terms of cover 3. Now, if you look on the inside, you'll see where it says curl flat. This is where I think we play more big nickel. So you look at guys like J-Ron Curse, who we signed in free agency. You look at guys like Wright, who we just drafted. Maybe Mukuamu, I think he's more safety than corner still. But if you want to put him there, you can put him there. I think those guys are going to be perfect for the curl flat position. And Jaquez, you say he may get a shot at free safety. I agree with that. He has very good feet. He has good awareness. I just think he plays better when he's on a guy in terms of an outside corner. I've never seen him at free. I have very vivid memories of him in Michigan doing press and release. So I'm not saying he can't do it. I just love Jordan Lewis at Michigan. Regardless of what I've seen in the league so far, I still say coming out of college, he was a first-round talent at corner. So, yeah. So, like I was saying, on the inside, you see curl flat. This fits perfectly into what Nahshon Wright can do. You put him off the line. He's always facing the quarterback. He can backpedal, get in his zone, and then read his area. He has the long wingspan, so that naturally makes his area even smaller because he has the ability to use his length to widen his zone. Same thing for J-Ron Curse, the guy we just signed in free agency. My guy Boss Cowboy made me do a little homework on him, and I was never able to touch up with him about that because he just got super busy and I got busy. But he asked me to go back and look at some Minnesota Vikings games to see what Curse did because I'm a huge Clemson fan. So I watched every snap he played at Clemson as a free safety, which, by the way, he can play some free safety as well. When he played in Minnesota, he played almost exclusively at a big nickel position. So his job was he would press the tight end off the line, and then he would get back into his zone, and then he just read the quarterback or read the players as they ran drag routes and stuff like that. Somebody made the comment about Nahshon Wright and him not being a good player when it comes to following guys on drag routes and stuff like that. I agree 100%. But the beauty of the cover 3 zone I think we're going to run, he won't have to do that because now instead of him chasing a guy on a drag route or a post, he's going to be looking for that guy to come into his zone, and then he'll pick him up from there. He doesn't have to necessarily follow him across the field. He'll be able to use his awareness to see the guy coming and then use his length to be able to knock down passes and possibly get interceptions. So I think we're going to see the opposite of what most people are expecting. I think the smaller corners are going to be on the outside doing press and release. I think the bigger corners are going to be inside doing more big nickel, pressing the tight ends, getting in their zones, and then making those zones smaller so that, for example, if I go back to my chart again and I look at the bottom of the screen, if this receiver decides to run a curl route or out route, because the guy inside at nickelback is so long, he'll be able to jump on that and knock the ball down or get an interception because of his length. And if you guys watch Nashawn Wright and watched a few of his games, most of his interceptions came from corners. I mean, they came from receivers trying to run outside routes on him, like out routes and comebacks and corner routes. So he plays those routes very well. And I think that fits into him being in a big nickel position. And just like you said, if Nick said it, I must be on to something because I know Nick knows a lot about football as well as you. And Mendoza says I can see Curse and Mukwamu doing it. Definitely. Again, I watched 8 games of Curse at Minnesota, and he played almost exclusively at big nickel. There was one game where he covered Calvin Ridley almost the entire game, and I think he only gave up 1 catch. That's the good. But there was another game where Green Bay put their starting receiver in the slot, and he cooked them for about 3 easy 40-yard catches. So there's some good and bad to that. I think he kind of went outside of his zone to make those plays. But playing 10 to 15 yards and using their length, I think those guys are going to really be good at it. If they use them in a big nickel, I can definitely see that because I don't think we have a lot of guys who can do that very well. And we talk about this, and I know Jaquez was hitting on this in the comments in the chat rooms. Somebody tell me where Anthony Brown fits at in this, because Anthony Brown is awful when it comes to press. Anthony Brown doesn't have a very high awareness. So where does he fit in a cover 3 scheme? And he's 5'11", so he doesn't have a lot of length. Are you gonna rely on him to press and release and be your last line of defense on a third of the field? I'm not. I saw him play the slot. I don't really like him in the slot in terms of his awareness. So where are you gonna put your highest paid corner on the team? To me, I think it's put him on the trading block or wait till June 1. And I know a lot of people disagree with that, but just looking at this, I think between Lewis and Joseph and Diggs, I think our outside is pretty good right now. And we still don't know what Reggie Robinson is, because I think Reggie Robinson would be perfect in this scheme because that's all he did in college. He was a little bit over aggressive when it came to pressing, but he was a press release corner the entire time he was in college, and he did it very well. So we have a couple of corners who can do that. And Jaquez, yeah, I think AB is a cover 2 corner. Like I wholeheartedly believe that. You put him on a guy, you let him play kind of underneath and let him know that he has a safety over top. And then if he has to, when the ball's in the air, he can try to use his speed to play catch up from behind. But I don't trust him being over top a guy because, for one, he's not physical enough. And for 2, he doesn't have the length or the awareness. I think that was the problem with Anthony Brown. And I think that was the problem with the Awuzie, which I love a Awuzie. But they don't fit what this scheme asked them to do. So when you hear people say, we let the best corner go in Awuzie, I agree with that. We did let the best corner go, but not the best corner for this scheme. You put a Woozy in a cover 2 scheme or some type of man scheme, I think he'll be pretty good. But cover 3, I don't think he'll cut it. Yeah, Reggie's raw. And I think having a scheme like this will kind of help him because you take away a lot of responsibilities. I think last year the corners had too much responsibility until late in the year when we got extremely desperate at corner, and then we started running more cover 2 concepts because they were afraid to leave the corners on the islands. And go back and look at that because I talked to my guy Jeff about this last year. When we had all those great games and Anthony Brown was getting interceptions and stuff like that, we were playing cover 2 concepts. When Rashard Robinson was playing corner, those were cover 2 concepts where the corners could play underneath and the safeties were kind of playing 2-man over top. They were cover 2, cover 1. Anthony Brown looked pretty good in those. Early in the year and years before, when Chris Richard came in and they started running more cover 3 concepts, Anthony Brown did not look like the same player he did as a rookie when Marinelli was calling more cover 2. So I think the on-field play kind of backs up what I'm saying. And Dominique says his brother loses his mind every time he sees Anthony Brown. I can definitely see that. J Tug says AB is going to be a casualty. I agree with that as well. I said it during the draft. The minute we drafted Boss Man Fat, AB could pack his bags because your number 4 corner is not going to be your highest cap hit. That's just simple finances right there. Unless a couple of people get injured. And Mendoza says his corners are Diggs, Lewis, Joseph, and I forget about Kennedy. We don't know what Kennedy is or where he's going to play. That's a very good point. We don't know what he's going to do, if he's going to come back or what. And I see guys are already starting to fund up to get rid of AB with Dominique putting in the first $5 and everybody else. So yeah. Great statistics. He gave it the most touchdowns since 2017. And again, like I said, in 2016, we were running cover 2 concepts. Then they brought in Richard, and we started running more cover 3, cover 1, and that's when Brown started to kind of go downhill until last year when all of our corners got hurt and they were afraid to leave the corners on islands, and we started back playing more cover 2 concepts, and Brown started to look a little bit better again. So that's just one of those things to keep in mind as we go into the offseason to see what happens with Anthony Brown. All right, guys. So now let's go into day 3. I'll try to move it along pretty quick. We're an hour and a half in. So we go to our next pick. I don't have to say a lot about this one. Everybody knows who he is, Jabril Cox. LSU guy, transferred from North Dakota State, where he was pretty much all world. I think he was a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year in Division II. Then he came up to the big boys. Now, a lot of people ask, why did Brown fall to the third? I mean, why did Cox fall to the 3rd round? Now, the reason I think he fell to the 3rd round is because he did not look good against the run in college his last year. Now, some people might try to say, well, he looked a little scared. I think his problem was it's a big difference between playing Southwest so-and-so state and playing against Alabama. The linemen are bigger. The backs hit the holes quicker. And when I watched the games that I saw him play, when it comes to I'm going to line up against the other team's running back or tight end, he just knows I'm naturally stronger than him. I'm just as big. I'm just as quick. I'm just as fast. So when it comes to coverage, you can see the confidence, like I can just get on this guy's hip and stay there. But when it comes to the running game, he looks a little timid. He's more, I don't even know if this is a word or not, but he's more reactionary. That's a word I used about a couple of the safeties in the draft. He was a reactionary player when it came to the run game. So instead of seeing a hole and hitting it, he would kind of sit timid and make sure that it was coming his way before he made a move. Now, when you're playing against a running back that runs a 4.4 and he weighs 220 pounds, you can't wait for him to come to you. You have to go to him. And I think his problem was because he would let those guys kind of build up a head of steam, it was a little bit harder for him to bring them down. So I don't think he was scared of contact. I think that by the time those big boys got to moving, it was harder for him to bring them down because he was waiting for the action to come to him instead of going to the action. Kind of the opposite of what we saw from Micah Parsons. So we got to remember, like I said before, coaches don't get a lot of time with players in college. So this kid came from borderline junior college level to the defending national champion level when you have a target on your back every week and every team you play is going to have a draftable player playing in front of you. That's a huge difference, and the learning curve is a little bit bigger. So I feel like if he gets in here and he gets in the film room and he gets with a real coach, maybe this is where Sean Lee can come in and kind of talk to him, or our defensive coordinator, our linebacker coach. This is the type of guy you sit him in a room and you explain to him, this is our concept. When you see this, you hit it. I think he's the type of guy that when he hits it, he's going to make a play. So I feel like this is going to be a steal once he learns what the hell he's doing. Because I feel like watching him at LSU, you could see the timidness because that's where the big boys play at, and he wasn't used to that. But he already naturally shows it in pass coverage, which is what's usually harder for most linebackers. He shows the awareness. He shows the quickness. He shows the strength. But when it comes to the running game, he plays a little timid. So I'm hoping that can kind of get taken out of him. I didn't see a scared linebacker. I did not see a scared linebacker. I saw a linebacker who wasn't sure of what he was supposed to do. So that's going to be a great pick for us, I think. And like you said, he has to come downhill. And like I said, in college, I didn't see a player who would hit the hole because he wanted to make sure before he did it. And by that point, when you got Najee Harris or Kylan Hill or even running back from Vanderbilt or Ole Miss, lesser SEC schools, those running backs have talent. Different than what he saw at Southwest Missouri State or Northeast Central Arkansas, whatever schools they played at Division II, or James Madison. Schools like that, it's a different level of players. And this is a great point as well. He did play some safety at North Dakota State as well. So he is still kind of raw at the linebacker position. But yeah, like you said, when it comes to covering, he has no fear. And that lets me know that, and looking at tape, that his problem was he didn't trust himself when it came to reading alleys in the running game. All right, so let's go to another pick. I believe we go to Josh Ball. And I'll try to speed this up. We're an hour and a half. I don't really like to keep the show too long, but we had so many players and so much to talk about. It's only so much I can speed this up and not really hit the guys like I want to. So, Josh Ball, people see Marshall, Florida State guy. So he does have some big school play. He started a couple games at Florida State. Got in some trouble. Couldn't keep his hands off his girlfriend in a bad way. Got kicked out of school. Had to go down to Marshall. Now, this could be a steal as well because on tape, the kid looks pretty good. He looks like a giant out there. He knows how to use his length. He knows how to use his arms. He's a strong player. and he's a nasty player. And you break it down perfectly right here. Value pick off the field can be scary, especially in today's climate where was it Kitty something can make a claim on social media about a player, and now everybody think he's going to get suspended for the season. And Zeke can have claims that were proven to be false by every bit of evidence that was found and still get suspended for 6 games. That's the climate we're in right now. And this guy has a proven history of abusing women. And now he's in a league where he's going to be making a lot of money, and the next woman he gets with is going to know that and is probably going to try to take advantage of that. So, definitely second round tape. Definitely competition for the swing tackle position. Again, he is a pure tackle. He is not lining up at guard. He does have strength, but he does not have the leverage or the knee bend to be able to sit down against defensive tackles and play guard. So Connor Williams is safe for now in terms of this pick. So let me talk about him at tackle a little bit, because this is what I saw on tape. I saw Goliath on tape. Now, that can be good or bad. I saw a big guy who stomped around on the field. Like, when you think of tackles, you normally expect a kick slide. I saw stomp, 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 long arms like Frankenstein, and you're not getting past me. And if I get my hands on you, we're doing a shed drill where you're just getting tossed around. I saw that quite a bit. So those are the good things. The bad, again, he's a stomper. So when you're playing against a speed rusher that could get you in trouble, he's a little bit susceptible to inside moves, especially from speed guys, because he is athletic, but he's not athletic to get back into his set. And if he tries to overextend against a speed guy, he starts to bend at the waist a little bit, and then you start seeing lunging. And when you're in the NFL and you lunge at a guy at the waist, you're getting your hand slapped down, you're getting an inside move, and you're getting pushed in the back. So those are some things he has to work on. But in terms of just raw tackle talent and using length, he's very good at that. Terrence Steele is definitely going to have a run for his money. Terrence Steele has long arms, but this kid plays with more strength. And even though he's a stomper, he has better feet than Steele, because Steele's feet are very bad. I talked about this last year. I don't think Steele has good feet, and I think that's why he gets beat to the outside quite often. He has extremely long arms, and it helps him out. This kid has long arms and good feet. Not great feet, but good enough feet to play tackle. Yeah, and not only the 6'7" frame, it's just he doesn't bend at the knees enough to sit down on a guard or a nose tackle. He doesn't have the anchor for guard, but he definitely has it for the tackle position. 35-inch arms on a 6'7" guy, that's very hard to get around. I think Steele may have 35-inch arms as well, but Steele doesn't have the feet this kid has. And like J Tuck says, shoot your hips and come downhill versus Parsons just shoot first, ask questions later. Yeah, Jaquez says he is mean and ass. Like I said, I saw a lot of I forgot what we used to call that drill, where we called it the Dominator when I was in school. I don't know what the technical term of the machine is, but it's the machine where you stand in front of them. It's got the two bars, and then you just twist your hips and twist it. If somebody remembers the name of that machine, let me know. I know when I played, we called it the Dominator, because that's basically what you did when you got your hands on somebody. Definitely, I would give him a shot at left tackle, because again, he can kind of save himself with the long arms, and our left tackle backups aren't much to be to phone home about. Knight Knight does a great job there because he's just a scrappy player. I think this kid can play left, but you're right. He's a pure right tackle to me. If I need him to play left tackle, I think he can do okay. But I'm just putting him in the right tackle. And Terrence Steele, you get a year to sit back and watch. Yep. Definitely all about leverage. Now, neither one of them will be great at left tackle. But again, I would probably leave Knight at left, like you said. I would try him at left if I needed to, but he's my right tackle off the bench. And still, we'll find a spot for you somewhere. Just keep drinking the Gatorade. Dustin Hockey, thank you for tuning in with an hour 40 minutes. I think I just reached the halfway point with the draft picks. So, guys, thank you all for sticking with me. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like this video because we are fueled off fan engagement and analytics. So the more you guys support us in terms of comments and likes and shares, the more people we can get to come in and watch this and the bigger we can become. So make sure you like, make sure you share, make sure you subscribe. And before I go on to some other stuff, we got a lot of talented people in the comments. You can see Jaquez just firing off just gems, like more than I can keep up with. Make sure you guys go follow him. I believe you just started your own Facebook group as well. So put that in the comments so I can put it on the screen so people can go find you. I know he works very closely with Boss Cowboy. So if you guys follow Boss Cowboy, which I know you do, Boss puts out some great stuff. This is one of the guys behind the scenes who helps keep Boss in line and give him facts and also put out content himself. So make sure you go check him out. And then we also have Jay Tuck in the comments, Cowboy fans only. In my opinion, one of the fastest growing podcasters in Cowboy Nation right now. He's doing a lot of great things. Make sure you go check him out as well. I saw my guy BJ Nixon here earlier. Star Gang. Make sure you go follow that group. Make sure you go find them. And then I also saw my guy, I believe it was Eric at Cowboys Uncensored. Make sure I'm Eric Berger, Cowboys Uncensored. Make sure I'm saying that right. A new podcast. I think he started about a month ago. They normally come on during the daytime around noon. So if you're looking for something to listen to on your lunch break or you work at nights and you don't want to watch replays of stuff like this and you want to watch something live, make sure you go check out him and his co-host because they put out some great content as well. All right, so he says it's Geechee Island on Facebook and Twitter. YouTube page coming soon. Make sure you guys go follow him because he puts out some great content all the time. And of course, we got a lot of great guys in the comments as well who are just killing it in comments. And I know they're probably going to be starting their own podcast soon as well. One of the things I love about the Cowboys we don't have the followers that I would like us to have, but the ones we do have are very high quality. So thank you guys for following us. Thank you for all these great comments and keep on supporting us because we're a family, we're a team, we're all going to grow together. I appreciate that, Jeff. I'm just a poor black kid from Mississippi that loves the Cowboys and likes talking about them. But thank you for the recognition. Same with you, Mendoza. You've been there since day one. I know you watch a ton of podcasts, so I appreciate you. Out of the 100 podcasts you watch, that you come in and tune in with us as well. All right, guys. So I think we're just past the halfway point. Let's keep it going. I think we could probably get out of here in 2 hours or so. I may open the phone lines up to see if anybody wants to talk about what we've talked about so far. Let me go through one more and then I'll see if the phone lines are working tonight. Because this was probably one of my favorite picks. It could be boom or bust. But if it booms, this one could really boom. And this is Semi Fehoko. Jack Meeker, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Definitely. I try to do a lot of homework on this stuff, and it always makes me feel good to know that what I'm saying people can relate to it, and then I'm halfway making sense. So talking about Semi, he did not play a lot in college, but the the games he did play, the kid was explosive. He has great feet. He has great size. He's a hand catcher. He runs good enough routes. He doesn't run great routes. I don't think he runs number one, maybe not even number two receiver routes. But if you told me that this kid is going to be my number three, number four receiver on the team, I'm ecstatic because the kid has everything you want. When you look at him, he's 6'3, 218 pounds, runs a 4.4, very explosive. I think he ran a 6'8 in the three cone, if I'm not mistaken. Again, talking about three cone. Honestly, three cone in certain positions is more important than the 40, especially when you're talking about like a slot receiver guy, which I think this kid will be. A 6'8 three cone, I'll take that all day, especially for a kid this size. I like him because I think he can play inside and outside, kind of like what we do with CD Lamb. Now, I talked about this last year on the show. When you look at how the team is set up right now, you talk about Coop, you talk about Lamb, they can play inside, outside. Gallup is pretty much stuck as your Z receiver. That's not a bad thing. I'm just pointing it out. You get a guy like this, now you have chess matches because when you come out of the huddle, you don't know who's going to play outside. You don't know who's going to play in the slot. You don't know who's going to be on the line. You don't know who's going to be at the Z position. It can throw off teams because you may want to travel with a certain guy, but everybody can't travel in the slot. So now if you have a guy like Coop and you want to put Coop in the slot, you don't have to worry about the guy that's on the outside not being able to run routes as well because this kid is big and fast and can run routes. That opens up a lot of stuff. And this kid, I think, is better inside than outside, which is surprising. And like every time I say a point, my guy comes in and confirms everything I just said. He gives you more flexibility, gives you less predictability, because every time you come out of that huddle, you don't know who's going to be lined up where. We already know CD Lamb does that. Coop can do it if they need to. If you don't want to take Coop off the field like they like to do, because you know Gallup has to stay outside, with a kid like this, now you can just put Coop in the slot so he doesn't have to keep getting beat up off jams. And you still have a guy on the outside who gives you a little bit of what Cooper does in terms of running those 7-8 yard routes that you need. He's not that fast, Jack. He's not gonna throw up a hand. But if you need him to be a vertical guy, he can do that as well. He's a natural hands catcher, which I love about him. So even if it's a 50-50 ball, you're not afraid to throw it up because he has the height and the speed and the vertical to go up and get it. So yeah, he could be a Gallup replacement. One thing I will say, he's raw. He hasn't played a lot of games, so we got to pump the brakes on how much he's going to give us, because I talk about this every year when I talk about the Noah Brown stuff, and I won't get into that on the podcast because I know the comments will blow up. Historically, our number 4 receiver never has more than 20 catches a year. You can go back 15 years if you like. Our number 4 receiver never has more than 20 catches a year. The only anomalies I can maybe think of was 2018, where we didn't have a number 1 and we just threw a bunch of guys in there, threw a bunch of crap at the wall to see what could stick. We had a bunch of guys who were just getting 5-6 catches here and there. Now, that year, one of our guys, our number 4 guy, whoever that's considered, may have gotten more than 20 catches. The only other year I can think of was the year where Miles Austin started to kind of transition from the team and lose his athleticism, the year we had Miles Austin, Dez Bryant, I can't remember those two receivers' name. I'm sorry, but that was the year Miles Austin was kind of considered our number 4 receiver, and I think he may have had 20 catches. Outside of those 2 years, you can go back 15 years, and I guarantee you, we won't have a number 4 receiver more than 20 catches. So I say that to say, don't expect this kid to set the world on fire. Our number 4 receivers don't get a lot of catches. Our number 5 receivers definitely don't get a lot of catches because historically we've been very reliant on our top 3 receivers and our tight ends. Now, if he can find a way to get himself to the number 4 receiver, he may be able to produce and contribute a little bit more. But let's just pump the brakes on him. I think he's going to make the team because somebody made the point about him on special teams. He was a gunner. He was a beast at gunner on special teams. Very important position. We need another gunner outside with CJ Goodwin. So he may beat out Malik Turner as our number 6 receiver. I'm not expecting him to jump all the way from 5th round pick to number 4 receiver, but I am expecting him to make the team, and I'm going to temper expectations unless he just gets some opportunities. Jack Meeker, no, Cole Beasley left because Buffalo offered him way more money. Like Buffalo offered him probably $3 million more a year than we offered him. So yeah, the measurements are definitely crazy. Like if you guys look at undrafted free agency, which I'll probably break down in a week or two because I want to make sure I go back and watch every guy so I can talk about them. It's going to take me a couple of weeks because we got a lot of free agents. But we got a lot of big guys in free agency. This kid is big with good feet, strong hands, and can run routes. The other guys in free agency may have 1 or 2 of those things. This guy has all of them. So he's definitely, regardless of how many 6'6" receivers we got, he's gonna have a leg up on all of them. Yeah, Mike does like 4 receiver sets, and I think free agency, undrafted free agency this year and last year is kind of showing us Mike is starting to kind of bring in what he wants, where his number 4 receiver is just some big athletic freak that just goes down the field and takes advantage of the other team's number 4 corner because he's just going to be bigger, faster, stronger. So I think we're going to see more of that. But until we see it, I have to go with what the history says. And history says our number 4 receiver is not a major offensive contributor. But I definitely see the writing on the wall, so you're not wrong. Yeah, I think we're definitely carrying 6 receivers. Like Mike McCarthy always carries 6. We carried 6 last year. I just think Simmy's going to be considered the number 5, number 6 guy. And we talk about special teams unit. You can throw J-Ron Curson here as well. He's a big special teams guy. Also, Carlos Basham. He's a very big special teams guy. So I made a tweet about this about a week ago as well. I said, I don't know how many of these draft picks are gonna play, but they're definitely gonna compete on special teams. Golston is a great special teams guy as well. I give you that one. I'm falling victim of something I always blame people of doing. I'm using history of the Garrett years to determine how the future is going to be. I give you that one. You got me right there. So I keep an open mind. I still think we're definitely keeping 6 receivers though, and hopefully, this year we start to see that number 4 receiver get used a lot more. All right, so let's go to our next draft pick. Once I go past the 5th round, I start to get confused on who went next. So I think we went with the big boy, which is the guy everybody's falling in love with. Another M-Town player, straight from Memphis, Tennessee, Quentin Bohanna, University of Kentucky. And this one, very interesting pick. People see the size and just consume, oh, he's just a space eater. He has the ability to generate some pressure. I mean, another kid, 6'4", 34-inch arms. He definitely has the weight we haven't seen in forever with the defensive lineman outside of Poe last year. But that was an anomaly. This kid has some talent. He's very raw. I'll say that. So I want people to just temper expectations on him because I don't think this is going to be the guy that's the reason we went to a 3-4. I know a lot of people are kind of saying that like he's going to be a perfect fit. I mean, to be honest, I know people are going to disagree with me. I think he's a practice squad guy, to be honest. That's not a bad thing. Just because a guy makes the practice squad doesn't mean, oh, he's an alpha player. He shouldn't be in the league. No. He has a lot of traits that are good, and he has a whole lot more traits that need a lot of work. For example, I used to talk about Poe all the time, and you guys who follow the Cowboys don't know. He would give you the Frankenstein a little bit, where it's kind of like stand up, arms out, and then just kind of get shuffled out of the way. Bohanna has that same thing in him. He is a stand-up player. And when I say that, I mean, as soon as the ball gets snapped, he stands up and punches. And that's pretty much it. A lot of times. Now, I don't know if that's because he was supposed to be playing two gap and that was his job, kind of like an Aleem McNeil, who I was pretty hard on. He does have power in his hands, J Tuck. I give you that one. He has strong hands. But he stands up often. And I don't normally, like, I watch a lot of games. And I don't normally, like, remember what player I watched in what game because I watch so much tape. But go watch Kentucky versus Alabama. You will see why he was a 6th-round pick. And you will see why Landon Dickerson was a borderline 1st-round pick. I just leave it at that. I told my guy Jeff earlier, it looked like Bohanna was playing with flip-flops on because he was sliding all across the field. Dickerson was eating him alive, one-on-one, at 330 or whatever his weight is. So that's kind of what you have to be aware of. Again, you can't play high in the NFL. I don't care how big you are. You're going to get washed out. We saw Poe do it last year. I get a lot of shades of Poe with him. It may take a while to get that out of him. So I don't expect him to just come in and be a day one guy because I don't know how many reps he's going to get in training camp. Again, not saying he's a bad player. I just see some flaws that are going to need a little bit more time before we can start relying on him to just be a 3-4 nose tackle savior. And that's a good point. He was one of the well, you say that, Mendoza, but Jamin didn't make a lot of plays in college. But I guess the few plays he did make, Bohanna was the reason for it. Because I talked about Cox earlier. In my opinion, Jamin looks scared of contact. And that's why I don't see how he went 1st round. Like, I watched at least 6 games of him when his name started to come up. And whenever he tackled, it was pretty much he would almost wait for the guy to get level with him, and then he'd grab him by the hip and drag him down. It was never meet him in the hole type stuff with him. Now, that could just be I caught the wrong games of him, but he was a dog piler, and he was a drag down guy. He was never an initiate contact guy. So, yeah, Bohanna, I don't see an immediate role for him on the 53. I think he's going to have to be on the practice squad. Again, we talked about this with the 3rd-round guys. 7, 8, 9, 10 games in, you may be able to correct these errors. Make sure he keeps his pad level low and just let him use his long arms and drive, and then we may have a player. But honestly, I don't expect anything from him his first year. Anything. If I get anything from him, I'm fine with it. I see the potential there. Yeah, I mean, I agree, Mendoza. He rolls high for a reason. That could be a whole nother show in itself. Same thing. I don't know why Baron Browning fails, but again, that could be a whole nother show in itself. But like I said, Bohanna, the traits are there. He's the only one of his kind on this team. So we'll just see what happens with him. And I talked about this post-draft when I compared guys, and I talked about, like, I see all these guys fitting these traits and one guy doesn't. What does that mean about the odd man out? And I'm looking at this pick and I'm like, I look at the entire draft. I see a bunch of undersized defensive tackle guys coming in. Then I see him. What does that mean for him? Was this a guy that they targeted, like we're going to have a role for him? Or was this just, okay, we're in the 6th round, we're scanning the board, this is just the best guy we see available, even if he doesn't fit, let's just bring him in and see what we can do? I think it's more that than this guy is going to be considered a major contributor. But we'll see when the season starts and we get in the training camp. I could definitely be wrong about that one. All right, so now we're down to our last 2 picks. We're at 2 hours. Again, I see the views have stayed pretty steady. So thank you guys for continuing to rock with me throughout this. I hope you guys have learned something. I appreciate everybody who's been bringing great comments. If you haven't learned anything from me, I know you've learned something from the guys who've been putting comments out here, because all the comments I've been putting have just been spot on by all these people. And I'm sorry I missed this comment, Mendoza, because this is a great point. About Dan Quinn took 3D tackles with Atlanta. Grady Jarrett, who was the undersized long arm guy like Osa, and then he took Deidre Sanat and Marlon Davidson, who were the kind of big guys, kind of similar to Bohanna. So again, he could have, and don't forget, the Falcons drafted Dontari Poe. I don't remember. No, I'm sorry, they didn't draft Dontari Poe. They signed him as a free agent. And I think it was the first year that Dan Quinn was there, if I'm not mistaken. So they could have a role for him. We'll see. And another good point, Quinn is known for D-line talent and development. But again, I just want people to pump the brakes a little bit on this one. Don't expect this kid to just come in and be our starting nose tackle in the 3-4, because you'll be setting yourself up for failure. If we get anything from him, I think we could consider that a successful pick. So now we're getting down to the last 2 picks. And this is a pick I like a lot. My guy Israel Mukuamu, cornerback / safety from South Carolina. I hadn't talked about this one a lot, but when I started doing my draft analysis in 2020, this was one of my top corners that year, because I was initially doing my homework on the defensive tackle that the Niners took, because I didn't see the hype around him other than just him being big and tall. So I watched a bunch of South Carolina games, and again, names escape me when I'm going live. So if you remember the defensive tackle that was drafted by the Niners last year that everybody has as a 1st-round pick and I didn't see it, let me know his name. So as I was watching my South Carolina tape, I kept noticing this big-ass corner who would press and release and knock the ball down. So I started watching him more and more, and I fell in love with his awareness and his ball skills. But then as I started focusing on him more, I noticed his hips were awful. Like I said before earlier in the show, it almost sounds like you can get an oil can and like spray his hips, because they're squeaking as he's turning, because that's how stiff and robotic they look. Sorry, I'm reading some of the comments. So yeah. So then I started noticing how bad his hips were, and exercise I normally do when I watch a player, if I notice a trait that's off about him, what helps me find out about other players coming up, I'd be like, okay, let me watch the guy opposite him to see if my eyes are deceiving me, to see if I can see the difference between the two. Now, the other guy just happened to be J.C. Horn. And then it was like, yeah, there's a major difference between these two guys and how they move and how they play. But Mukuamu, big kid, physical kid, great ball skills. His hips are bad. Like when he releases, every receiver gets 2 steps on him because his hips are so stiff and slow. But he knows how to use his length and get his hands on the ball. And he plays physical. So last year, when J.C. Horn kind of separated himself and started traveling more, they started allowing Mukuamu to play more safety, which was a good move for him because he looked really good at safety at times. And then they transitioned him back at corner a little bit because they needed some help on the other side due to depth. So this kid has safety experience, and he has the ball skills, he has the awareness, he has the length. I think he's gonna play some strong and free for us, honestly. I think he's gonna be probably more free than strong, but the way this scheme looks, I think he can play some strong as well. But with the stiff hips, I don't know. It's really hard to say. He can use his length to make up for it. He could be one of those big nickel guys as well that I talked about. But again, his hips just bother me. But the awareness is there, and the length, and the playmaking ability. That's why I think he may be a good deep middle guy. I think it was a steal of a pick. I had him late 4th, early 5th. So getting him in the middle of the 6th round was definitely a good get. He's a hardworking guy. Again, ball skills are there. And he has some size to him as well. And Mendoza, I didn't listen to his interview, but tenacious in his actions, I could definitely see that. J Tuck talked about the Kentucky game was bad. I'll go back and watch that game. I don't know if that's one of the games I watched. But yeah, I'll definitely check that one out. Yeah, and going back to D-line, talked about D-line players need 3 years to develop because you have young kids going against grown men. That's a great point, talking about Bohanna. When you watch a college football team, even in the SEC, one thing you have to remember is 95 to 99% of the players on most teams will never smell an NFL field. So Bohanna, he was a draftable player, which means he has the talent. Outside of Alabama, which he got destroyed in, and I think Ole Miss had a guy who was drafted high. Outside of like 2 or 3 games, he may not have seen an NFL level interior lineman. So we talk about some of these guys and how they dominated, but some of them probably never just saw real NFL talent. So there's a big gap between where they played at and where they're going to. And Jaquez, again, good tackler, plays well when the ball's in front of him. His hips are horrible. That makes me kind of afraid of free safety because he needs to turn and run. But I think his length can make up for it. I think I would trust his hips more there than at the strong safety role, which is going to be more of a downhill, contain, carry the tight end a little bit role. All right, we're at 210, and we're getting down to our last player. Last pick of the draft, Matt Farniok, center guard, University of Wisconsin. Now, this pick, I see Nebraska, I see interior lineman, good pick. I don't even have to look at the tape. I know what their coach believes in. I know what their O-line coach does. I've seen the history of the team. So this was a good pick. I didn't feel like I had to do a lot of research on him. Plus, on top of that, he's a 7th round guy. But I watched 2 games on him. And the first thing that stood out is, to me, even though he's 6'6", 330, he's not playing tackle. No way. You don't want to see him against an NFL level player, even the least athletic guy. He looks like he's about to fall down when he plays at tackle. I think he can play some center, but he'll be a really big center. I think he can do it because he has a great anchor. He's an extremely smart kid. I believe he was a 4-time All-American academic first or second team all 4 years. So he's very smart. I think he's a 5th-year player, so he understands the game well. Again, you talk about Nebraska and how well coached they are. So I think he can play center, and he's played a few games at center. I think his natural position is guard. I think he's and Jaquez beat me to it. He's a roll grader type guy where you just let him get down and just push a guy. The things I didn't like about him, and I can see why he's a 7th round pick. It's the same thing I see with Connor McGovern. His awareness is kind of low. Like when McGovern played for Zach Martin, he gave up 2 sacks because he didn't understand on a blitz what his responsibility was. And even though this is a smart kid, he doesn't really know how to keep his head on the swivel like he should. And that's a little bit concerning considering how smart of a guy he seems to be. The other thing I don't like about him, he doesn't use his hands well. My coach used to call it a titty pusher, where he basically lets a guy get into his body and then he starts to try to grab him or block him or shed him. He doesn't know how to use his hands to keep separation and then manipulate a guy with his strength. He kind of lets a guy get a little bit too close to his chest for that. And just looking at some of the long arm guys we got in the draft and in free agency, I think they're going to exploit that pretty quick in practice. So hopefully he can grow off of it. But he definitely has to solve that problem. Again, this is another guy. I like the pick. I think this is going to be one of those borderline practice squad guys who needs a little bit more work before you can rely on him. If we just need a natural run blocker, he may make the team, but his pass coverage leaves a lot to be desired. Just like Jaquez said, he has to learn to punch sooner because he literally waits till a guy, he almost gets T-Rex arms before he starts to try to block a guy. When it should be like this, he's almost like this before he tries to grab a guy or block. And in the NFL, you can't let a guy get this close to you before you try to get your hands on him. You got to use all 33, 34 inches of your arms to get to him. And that's one of the problems that he has. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much all I have in terms of all 11 draft picks. Let me see if these phone lines work real quick and see if anybody wants to call in and talk about a guy or hit on something that I may have missed on. Give me 1 second while I try to find it. All right, so I think the phone lines are open. So if anybody wants to call in and check it for me, let me know. Go ahead and call in and we'll see if this thing works. Let me know what I missed. Let me know if something else we need to talk about. If you have any questions about anything that I hit on before, you want to correct me on something, feel free to call in. Let me know what I did right, what I did wrong. I'm trying to grow just like you guys are, and I don't have all the answers. So I always appreciate learning something new from knowledgeable Cowboy fans. So even if you want to call and just test it out, because I do need to see if it works. And I may call in myself to test it out as well. So while I wait to see if anybody wants to call in, make sure you guys like. Make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't already. You can find me at Bluff City Cowboys on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. All right, got a call coming in. Let's see who we got. All right, 843, you're on the air.
What's up, Marcus? This is Geechee.
Oh man, what's up, Geechee?
How you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm good. While I got you here, please pronounce your first name so I stop messing it up.
It's Jacquez. You said it right.
Okay, Jacquez, got you. All right, man. What you got? You know, you one of the people I respect, so let me know what I did wrong, what I did right.
I just yeah, I mean you did a great job. I believe it was a very informative show, especially with you showing the things you were talking about. And I just kind of want to elaborate on that D line, the 3-4, because I think a lot of people getting confused by it and not understanding what we putting together.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna be more of a one gap instead of a two gap 3-4, because in the one gap you're just attacking gaps instead of trying to hold up two men or being responsible for two gaps.
Yeah.
So in that defense, you can get away with smaller D tackles. Because I think people think because we don't got a big BJ Raji type in the middle that we're going to struggle against the run. But it's all about playing fast and attacking gaps and then opening up holes for your guys like Parsons and Neal to be headhunters and cause havoc.
So you think we're gonna one gap across the line? You don't think any of our linemen gonna two gap? Which I mean, I can see that. I'm just wondering if that's what you think.
I don't think we got the players the two gap right now, honestly.
Okay.
Size wise. Now I think Urban can hold up. Like what I did see with Urban and Watkins, they both do a good job of getting that arm on one guy and being able to hold the other blocker too.
Yeah.
Kind of almost occupying two guys. So I don't know if we got enough players that's good enough to be able to play two gaps at one time.
Okay.
So that's why I think it's going to be more of a one gap than a two gap, in my opinion.
Yeah.
More because the one gap is usually more of an attacking defense. I think with the speed we have, we're going to be more of an attacking defense.
I mean, I definitely agree. Like I said before, Gallimore and Hill, when they played in college, they were one gap 3-4 linemen. And as much as people hate Hill, he was one of the best in college when it came to one gapping out of that 5 tech or that 1 tech.
That first step he has puts pressure on offensive linemen.
Yeah.
He's explosive off the ball. That's one of his best traits he has. So I think if you want to get the best out of the players you got, you should run a one gap more than a two gap. And I just think, like I said earlier, we're going to have like production, roll, like a lot of players. We're going to throw a lot of players in there, a big rotation, and then just wait and see which guys kind of separate themselves from everybody else.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the
So
beauty.
I just wanted to elaborate on that 3-4.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because that's the beauty of a Micah Parsons. If you want a one gap, now you got a linebacker that's not scared to get in that hole and shed a guard or run that lane that defensive tackle is going to leave when he penetrates. He's not going to stand back.
And Parsons is he's so fast and explosive. He's going to beat a lot of blocks a lot of times because they're not going to be able to put their hands on him.
Exactly.
So that right there is going to help Parsons. I think a lot of people scared that Parsons doesn't share blocks well. With technique and practice, he's going to get better at it. But we also got to remember he is so explosive, short area. A lot of guys ain't going to be able to put their hands on him.
Exactly.
So I definitely think Parsons is going to thrive. And then you still can line Parsons up on the outside linebacker and let him rush the passer too if you want to.
Yes, exactly.
So there's just so many things you can do with him. And then you playing nickel still 60 to 70% of the time because people thinking that D-Law kind of going to get lost out of the shuffle. D-Law still going to have 60 to 70% of reps in nickel to still rush the passer and have his hand in the dirt.
I mean,
so I definitely see what Quinn is trying to put together.
I mean, all D-Law has ever played was 50% of the snaps, even last year.
Exactly. But would you want a more fresher D-Law in the fourth quarter and see we make a playoff run, have them more healthy and more fresher?
Yeah, definitely. I'm right there with you.
So it's like with the numbers game, you give your players a chance to not get worn out, and in the fourth quarter, you can be more fresher, and you might be a little bit more fresher in the offensive lineman, and you could cause a little bit more havoc late in the games. Because I expect this offense to put up a lot of points, and when you do that, and if you get leads, then you can be way more aggressive on defense. You don't have to worry about playing the run as much. You can just pin your ears back and go get the quarterback.
Exactly. Go back to that, I believe it was 2006, 2007 Colts team, where if you go back and look at those guys, everybody was 280, 290. And all they did was just run and get the quarterback because they knew that the offense was going to put up 40.
Yes. So once you can make a offense one-dimensional, then it becomes easier to play D-line because you don't have to think as much. You just go and get the quarterback now.
Yeah.
So that's why I say with that one gap, I think the smaller guys will be able to thrive in it because I think a lot of people, they don't see the 330 guys, the bigger D linemen. They figure we still going to struggle again against the run.
Right.
And I'm saying, I think in my opinion, just calm down, let it come together, and I think we're going to be better against the run than most people think.
Yeah, there's more than one way to run a 3-4. It's not the traditional all the linemen two gap like most people think.
Exactly.
So while I got you here, Geechee,
And
who you think playing inside on nickel and in 3-4? Inside linebackers. My mistake. Inside linebacker.
Oh, inside linebackers?
Yeah, in the 3-4 and in the nickel.
LVE. I think LVE and Parsons.
Okay.
And if LVE ain't healthy all year, I think maybe Neal.
Okay.
I think they're going to try to get Jalen out of being in that middle on passing situations as much as possible.
God, I hope so.
So you either have, you'll either have a combination, I believe, of Parsons and LVE or Neal and maybe Parsons. And people think, this is another thing about Parsons too, they feel like he ain't good in coverage.
Mm-hmm.
He's still raw, but he definitely has the athleticism to be able to cover running backs and tight ends. So let the guy get in there and learn a little bit more. I think, and if you look at his makeup and his mentality, he's going to work hard to get good at it.
Yeah.
So I think eventually he'll be good at it. And if you put him in that nickel on passing downs and you want to blitz, who do you want better in that position than Parsons? I mean, just look at his college tape. When he gets 3 lanes, he goes and gets the ball.
Yeah, and that's one of my pet peeves with fans too. Together. Yeah. People say Parsons can't cover. When did he have to cover? Like, seriously.
Yeah, he really didn't have to.
You can't say a guy can't do something because he didn't have to.
As a weapon.
Exactly.
Yeah, they used him as a weapon. Like I'm gonna get my best player in situations, advantageous situations where he can wreak havoc.
Mm-hmm.
He lined up everywhere, so he didn't have to cover much. So you can pick apart that in his game, but he didn't do it that much.
Right.
So I don't really like people just saying, "Oh, he can't cover." I think that's really kind of lazy, and not even so much lazy. You start picking these players apart so much.
Mm-hmm.
You have to try to find bad things about them because you don't want to always see all the good things about them.
Yeah, and that's listening to rhetoric too. Like you hear somebody say that probably only watch them play one game.
Enough.
Like you got to watch a couple of games on a guy to get an idea.
If you hear it enough, then you start believing it, and then you start repeating it, especially if you don't go and put your eyes on it yourself.
Exactly. And that happens
I
all
try
the
to tell
time.
people all the time, like, you can listen to what people say, but you still can go and put your eyes on it too. Go look for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, go put your eyes on it too.
Yeah, because like even with that, me and you could watch 3 games of the same player. If we watch the different 3 games, we may have a completely different perspective on that guy.
Very true.
And then it's up to one of us to go and check the other guy's notes to see if he's right or wrong about it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm. No, nothing, because you can change my mind about something I didn't see.
Yeah,
and vice versa. And then sometimes I try to compare players, like past players, and they makeups and measurements and maybe the schemes they play to a player I'm scouting, and try to see if I see the same traits. So you kind of get a better idea of maybe how they'll be used in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, everybody got their way about going about scouting.
Yeah.
So, everybody not always gonna have the same opinion. But like you said, it's all about checking each other's notes and kind of learning from each other and getting better.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Geechee, before I let you go, man, let the people know what you're working on.
Right now I'm just trying to get my YouTube page together. Just steady studying. Trying to get my Twitter up and running. It's doing pretty good right now.
Okay.
And my Facebook page. And here soon, y'all probably see me dropping some videos and hopefully doing some shows with some of my favorite bloggers.
Yeah.
And you definitely one of them. I enjoy listening to you. I enjoy watching you. Very knowledgeable. I like how you break the game down. So I definitely would like to do a show with you in the future.
It's already done. You just let me know when and where. Just let me know, man. We good.
See you less, man.
All right, man.
See you less, man.
Appreciate you calling in, man.
I enjoy talking to you, man, about anytime. Yeah, anytime, bro.
Yeah, man. Don't be a
Good.
stranger.
Have a good night.
All right, you too.
I won't. All right, man.
All right, man. That was Geechee calling in. We're at 2 minutes and 26 seconds. I keep it open for another 3 minutes or so, 3-4 minutes. Try to cut this thing out at 2.5 hours. So if anybody wants to call in before we shut this thing down, talk about favorite player, least favorite player, anything I talked about, what you agree or disagree with, go ahead and hit the phone line up. Let me know what you think. I see the comments start to slow down a little bit too. So let's get back in the comments as well. If you guys got anything else you want to talk about. If not, I'll give it another 60 seconds and then we'll call it a show. But before I do, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We held pretty steady for 2.5 hours with the same group of people on Facebook and YouTube. I see my Twitter people started to kind of fade out on me, but thank you guys for tuning in. Again, I'm co-host of the Cowboys Zone. Me and my guy Lambo come on every Thursday night, 7:30 Central Standard Time. Try to bring you guys some Cowboys knowledge, way we see the game, things we like to talk about. And Dustin Hockett says, I miss Nation. What did you think about those games I sent you over? Oh, I forgot you sent me some games. On draft day, it was crazy. Let me go back and check what you sent me to see if it's something that I missed in terms of the games I watched. But the games I just saw an average guy. Terrell Pinkney, my overall grade, I would give it a solid B. It was a lot of I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. It was a lot of I can see what they're doing, but it's not the move I would have made. Picks made. Just going all the way back. Well, the first round, Michael Parsons was a home run to me. Kelvin Joseph was a good pick, but again, there was a couple corners I really liked. Then you go into the third round. I look at Osa, and I think Jay Tufele can do the same thing Osa does, but 20 pounds heavier. So that's a difference. The Golston pick, I like the pick because I see what he does and what he represents. But there are probably about 4 or 5 other guys I could have taken over him. Nashawn Wright, they like him. I see it. Let's see how they use him. That was probably the only pick I would be like, D pick. Day three, they redeemed themselves at every pick. I was having a conversation with somebody after the draft. I said, if they made the first 3 picks of day 3 and those were their third round picks, that may shift my grade because I feel like the Cox pick was a home run. I feel like the receiver pick, I see the potential there. I can see that being your late third round pick. And the Josh Ball pick, we got him in the 4th as a third rounder, still would have been a good pick. So if you swap third round in the beginning of day 3, the grade would be better. But looking at it as a composite and all the players we got, all the players have a fit. All of them fit a need. All of them follow a theme. And if you give me something and I can see your logic. Now it's all about, is it going to come together? I can't fault you because as the coach, you see things a certain way. Now I just have to see, is it going to work? So if it works, it's a home run. But looking at it from where I had guys, it's a B draft. Jack Meeker asked, will we sign a DT? I don't know. I think we're gonna probably need another guy in here. But listening to my guy Geechee just come in and telling me about the everybody one gap. If we do it where everybody one gaps, we got the guys we need right now. Because Hill, Gallimore, Osa, Golston, Urban, that's 5 D tackles. All of them are penetrators. All of them have length. All of them have 3-4 experience. And you normally don't keep more than 5 D tackles on a team. Usually 5 D tackles, 5 or 6 defensive ends. So if you're telling me we're going one gap, I think we're going to ride with the 5 we have. Now, if we start to try to do some 2 gap stuff, I think we might need to bring one more guy in who can give us some consistent 2 gap play. And like you said, it was a lot of reaching after the second round. And like Geechee said, just like I said, day 3 really made up for it. I haven't even begun to look at the undrafted free agents. I recognize a few of the names. I just saw a bunch of tall receivers and fullback and running back. I haven't really had a chance to look at anybody yet, but I'll definitely get into that. And probably in about a week or 2, maybe 3, I'll start to do more undrafted free agent stuff. Mendoza says with the talk of still wanting a quarterback and possibly cutting AB to sign in Poole come cheaper. Now that one I don't know. I think it really depends on what they plan on doing with Robinson and Kennedy. Like if those guys both stay at corner, the cornerback room is pretty full. So I don't know if we have space for another corner. I guess if you feel like Poole is an upgrade over if you would consider Robinson or Kennedy your number 4 corner, is definitely an option, but it would have to be cheap, like dirt cheap, to bring them in. If it's dirt cheap, league minimum, a little bit more, I'd definitely consider it. Jeff, you know how I feel about Jeff Driscoll. Jeff Driscoll was a 3rd, 4th round graded quarterback for me in that draft. He's tall, he has a strong arm, and he's extremely mobile out of Florida. I forgot what D2 school he transferred to, but I remember him from Florida. If he can come here, I think he fits the mold of what we would be looking for in terms of a backup for Dak. So I don't know what the rumors are, but if the rumors are bringing him to Dallas, I'm all for it. And Mendoza says we have skyscrapers for wide receivers. That's definitely true. I mean, I think our undrafted free agency, the shortest guy may have been 6'4". That's ridiculous. Yeah, I forgot about Detroit. He lit us up. But yeah, he shows it in flashes. So if you told me this was the guy we're bringing in for Dak, if something happens and Dak has to miss a game or 2, I'm all for it because I know for 2 games, he's going to at least read option me or bootleg me into some competitive games. Other than outside of 2 or 3 games, nah. But I think Garrett Gilbert needs some competition. I just can't leave it all on a guy who's been a journeyman around the league. If the word is we flying him in for a visit, I love it. I love Jeff Driscoll as a player. I think he could bring a lot to our quarterback room. I think he just wasn't given the fair shot to show what he could do. All right, guys. Yeah, good arm, very mobile. I think he was a 4.5 runner as well, if I remember correctly. So yeah, if they're flying them in, I definitely love that. And like I said, I was shocked that McCarthy did not bring in an undrafted free agent or draft a quarterback. So I knew it was another quarterback coming soon, and Jeff Driscoll might be that guy. because I was looking for them to draft my guy, KJ Costello out of Mississippi State, which I think is probably a less mobile version of Jeff Driscoll, but a guy I really like. Yeah, Chase Daniels, the career backup who probably made like $40 million and he probably made more money than he had snaps in the league. But people love him. He'll get another year somewhere. All right, guys. I think that's pretty much all I have. Once again, thank you guys for watching. Nobody's calling in, so we'll call it a wrap. Once again, thank you guys for watching. As always, definitely appreciate the support. And like I said before, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook at Bluff City Cowboys at the bottom of my screen right here. Find me on Twitter at Bluff Cowboys. I promise I'll try to be more interactive on social media. I definitely need to start making more videos, but this is my baby right here every Thursday night, 7:30. Make sure you guys tune in. Next week, my co-host Lambo should be back, so we can do some more Cowboys talk. Like I said before, we like to spread knowledge here. So next week, I think we're gonna talk about our competition, because the only way we can know how well we're doing is seeing what our competition did. So we're gonna reach out to some of our favorite knowledgeable bloggers from the other NFC East division teams. You guys have seen them on the show quite a bit. We don't bring in fanboys who are just going to come in and just spew a bunch of cowgirls crap. We bring in guys who know their teams and know our teams and know how we match up in a as impartial as possible while still being a fan of their team. So I know we got my guy from Ryan Cooley, who's the Redskin fan, football team fan. I apologize. And I think we got Philly Madness coming in from the Eagles. Last year we did a show. We had all the guys come in and we kind of lined up all the teams. You guys seem to really enjoy it. They brought a lot of great knowledge about our team from a knowledgeable fan perspective as well as their team. So we're going to bring them in. We're going to break down their drafts a little bit and see what they did and see what they think about our teams and see how they think things are going to line up. So make sure you catch us next week for that. Another week or so after that, we'll probably get into undrafted free agency. As always, we'll always cover news and notes from the Cowboys. I didn't even get a chance to talk about Antoine Woods today. But again, like I've been saying, Quinn has a theme. He's followed that theme, and he's sticking with it for better or for worse. And Antoine Woods just did not fall into what he was looking for in terms of defensive tackle. So, like I said, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to tune in next week. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. I'm Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy, and I'll see you guys next week.